Hey guys, it is Wednesday morning. It is cold here. I think Christine is coming to us from out California way, but no, not out California way. So I'll ask her when she comes on the show. We are. It's cold here. It's 50 degrees, which is an unusual thing for this time of year. It's already fall, and we didn't mean to be. But we are ASMM Digital Small Business Connections podcast. We are live today. We are streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Sometimes our guests come on and they don't know. So we're working on that. So they don't know that we're going live. And they very much don't know that we're going live on video. So it's always a surprise for them. All right. We are the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. Our goal is to have you walk away from today's show and put what you learn here to work in your business. That's what we want. We want you to say, I learned something and I put it to work. And the reason is, I'm going to give a shout out to Michael Hyatt. The reason this is my goal is that when I listen to Michael Hyatt's Lead to Win podcast, I every single time call somebody on my team and say, hey, let's implement that. Let's do that. And that's what I want. I want you guys to learn something here from the entrepreneurs we have on the show and really put it to work for you. All right. I want to remind you, it is National Suicide Prevention Month. Burgers and Bands for Suicide Prevention is my chosen charity because I created the charity. So if you would like to make a donation over there, we would appreciate that. And if you are struggling, please call for help. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength because it takes a lot of strength to ask for help. So that's my reminder for today. And before we go live, I want you to know, before we go on with Christine, I want you to know we are live. You can ask questions right here of our guests. So Christine, before Rocky starts barking, let me bring you in here. Hi, Christine. How are you?
Great. That was exactly enough time to share the links, start the parties, all that good stuff.
So tell us about what you do, and then I'm going to go shut my dog up.
Absolutely. So first of all, I'm not in California. I'm in New York. I'm in the beautiful Hudson River village of Nyack, New York, and it is cold here too. And I am stoked about that because first of all, I like fall, and second of all, I am in my attic studio. So it's usually really hot up here. So I'm glad it's not. And Annie was just telling me we actually met at Social Media Marketing World 2018. I looked through my pictures and I selfie with everyone. So I have a picture of us together, which I think is awesome.
I think that's great. And when I didn't remind you before you came on, and it was a Social Media Marketing World fast. Insane. So I was really glad to meet you out there. And you stood out. You're one of the people that stands out. And part of that is this personal branding. So it totally makes sense. It really does. So tell us, when we talk about personal branding, what do we mean? What are we talking about? And I love that you added that, why it's not fake. People think it's fake. So explain what this is.
Well, it's about what stands out to people about you, ultimately. It's about what makes you memorable, what makes people remember that they've met you, what makes people, when they see you again, they're able to take that new impression and add it to the old impression. So it's compounding impressions. That's really key, because the fact is, if someone doesn't know that they've encountered your content before, or encountered your brand before, or encountered you before, then that's one impression. And it's just one. And it doesn't compound into that type of lasting brand value and in that type of strong brand impression. And, they say it takes, X number of brand touches before someone makes a purchase decision or before someone takes some sort of action. That number of impressions that's required just keeps going up and up as we're saturated with all this digital media right now. So that makes it that much more important to make sure that your brand impressions are compounding. And the way to do that is to be memorable.
Absolutely. And I tell people, one of the things I say a lot is, you have a personal brand.
Yes.
Whether you know it or not, you have one. So you should be in charge of it. And this is not just for business owners, right? It's for everybody. Mm-hmm. So that, for me, that is the thing that people need to remember. And it's something, I'm a mom, and I'm a mom of grown kids. So right? So I say to the grown kids, I say to people when I meet who are young, that I'll say to them, hey, you need to make sure you do a personal brand because you don't know where you're going to go next in your business. And they'll say, oh, I'm really happy with the company I'm with. I'm like, oh, sweetie, I know, but you're going to move on. When
Oh,
you
bless your
do,
heart. Yeah.
bless your heart. So you have to have that personal brand established so that people know who you are. And
That you can take that with you everywhere you go. And
everywhere you
that actually
go.
comes down to the point about not being fake and about the brand needing to come from you. Because first of all, sometimes there's a couple mistakes people make with personal branding. One of them is not realizing that they have one. And,
Right.
that's a mistake because then you're letting other people define it. You're not taking the pen and helping write that narrative that's already out there about you, whether you like it
Right.
or not. But then another mistake people make is they tie it too strongly to their current job or their current position or their current situation. And first of all, that's not a transferable thing then. That's not something that you can necessarily take with you to the same degree wherever you go. It's also going to be a little harder to maintain because it's defined by an external force, which means that it automatically comes a little less from inside you, which means it's a little more of a role you're playing, which makes a little more work for you. So having
Exactly.
something that really comes from you and comes from those things that you will take with you everywhere you go is really important. When I started Christine Gritmon Inc., I actually left a job I was really happy with. And I left it by choice. So that's an interesting thing, is if you had told me 6 months earlier that I would be leaving it to start my own business, I would have been like, but why? I'm fine. And then I caught the bug, but what it comes down to is I had built a personal brand in that job. I was a local journalist. And it was the first time that I really took charge of that sense of, a public persona that was also legitimately me. And so I was able to take that with me, and it helped me start my business. It definitely helped start off things with some degree of know, like, and trust. I say know, like, and trust all the time. For those who maybe aren't marketers, aren't as familiar, there's that great quote by Bob Berg, paraphrased, it's people don't do business with companies. People do business with people who they know, like, and trust.
Right.
And social media is such a great way to create that. They know you because they see you all the time and they feel like they know you. I get told by people all the time that they feel like that we've already met. And then once we have already met, they say that I'm just like they thought I would be, which is the ultimate compliment. Not everyone will like you. You can't get too focused on the like.
Right.
Make sure the people who are right for you like you. And then and like is really about they get a sense of your vibe. That's
Right.
what it is. So know you is you're familiar. Like is they have a sense of what you're all about. And then that all leads to trust. And trust is that they have a sense that you know what the heck you're talking about. They have a sense that if you don't know what you're talking about, you'll tell them, which is key and which so many people miss.
Right.
And they have a sense that you're the real deal. And that's really, really important. And that's another reason why you have to make sure that that definition of your personal brand comes from within, comes from who you legitimately are, because that'll make that know, like, and trust really solid. And that will also be something transferable you can take with you anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something this is a benefit to having a personal brand that I never thought about, but it is absolutely true. And even before social media, I had a personal brand without realizing it.
Yeah.
I have not done a resume
Mm-hmm.
since college, and that was a very long time. I graduated from college in 92, so that was a long time ago. I have not done a resume because people have gotten to know me and they've gotten to like me and they've gotten to trust me. So when I moved jobs, it came from people calling me and saying, hey, do you want to work for me?
Yep.
Right. And then when I started this business, I didn't have to go out and rebuild myself. I was able to do that. So there are so many benefits to having a personal brand, but that's my favorite one. It's honestly why I started the job, was so I didn't have to go do that.
Yes.
So, all right. So let's talk about how, and you're so good at this. You really are. We met through social media, because social media is the marketing world. But I follow you on Twitter especially, and you're really good at it. So how do you use social media as a means of networking?
Thank you. So I think the number one thing, and I'm moving more heavily into this, I'm sort of doubling down on this now more than ever. It's not that I don't think about what I'm going to post, because of course you have to give some thought to what to post because you want to be valuable. You want to make sure it's on brand. You want to make sure there's a point. Mine is a little more personal than professional in some ways. So mine is a little more mixed up than a strictly professional account would be in general. But I will say the thing I've been doubling down on is I don't start with the content. I start with engaging. When I open Twitter, I go to my notifications first and foremost, and I want to touch all of them. I want to give a little heart. I want to give a little comment. I want to post a little GIF. I want to touch all of those notifications, and that matters a lot more to me than figuring out what I'm going to post that day. And that's turned out to be a great strategy because I have learned not only how to sustain the growth in followers that I've always tended to get after conferences or after Twitter chats or something like that. There's always, a spike and then there's a slight dip. I've learned how to maintain the spike and not have such a dip because of that. But also I've really cracked the code on sustainable growth there. And the fact is, it means my notifications are blowing up because if you actually engage with your followers, they'll engage more with you, which means my notifications are taking a little more time. But, that just means that I need to sort of simplify what I decide to put out there and schedule some of it. I mean, a lot of my Twitter posts they kind of fit into two chunks. There's either the pre-planned, scheduled weekly promotion of my Twitter chat and my show, which is actually a lot of what I post, and I'm fine with that. And that I don't have to think about. I think about it like once a month. And I'm done. That's right. Very efficient so that I can free up more time for engaging. And then there's the stuff that's just top of my head. It's, I'm on Twitter and I see something I want to share. Some of it has been a little political lately. Again, it is largely a personal account, not just a professional one. Right. But, so the spur of the moment on the fly post. So it's either super pre-planned and batched or it's super on the fly and out of nowhere. I don't have a lot of people I know have kind of a stockpile of sort of evergreen posts, and they use tools like Social Jukebox to sort of just kind of feed them out here and there just to fill up their feed. But I haven't gotten there yet. I kind of feel like I either want to be promoting my thing or engaging as a human, and I don't really have an in-between at the
That's
moment.
what I tell my clients. My clients say, what is going to work best for me? So I have stopped taking clients who say to me, I'm not on social media. I just want you to do it all. I've stopped taking them because the truth is people want to deal with people. And if they want to deal with people, then you have to put some of your personality into it. So we will post for all of our clients, but the clients that do best are the ones who then go in and do what you say. They engage with people that I don't know because I don't know everybody they know. They're engaging with people and they're sharing those people's things. And they're sometimes putting something out there that they just woke up and thought about. Like I work with a chimney company, and the other day I had posted something for him, and then I saw something go up in the feed in the same it's Chimney Tech, saw something go up in the feed, and he said, gosh, I just watched this interview about Rachel Ray. I just watched this, she had a chimney fire, and wow, this is really scary. And I'm so glad I read this. And he shared it. That's the kind of thing that makes a difference because he's the owner of this business. He knows what people are thinking about. He knows what's concerning them. And he can put that extra little bit into it. So you've got to be personable on it. So
I used to do done for you social when I started my business, and I quickly transitioned into, instead of doing it for my clients, I work with small business owners like that chimney store, like that Chimney Tech. I work with small business owners to teach them how to do their own social media so that when they see something like that Rachel Ray piece on, chimneys, right now, a lot of people wouldn't even think to put that up. They wouldn't even see that and recognize, oh, that's something I should post about on social. That is, interesting, not promotional, but still relevant to my business. Yes. And what I do is I teach people how to recognize those moments and how to know how to use them strategically, because it's kind of like there's content going on all around us at any given moment. But a lot of us aren't really trained with that eye to recognize it or to know how to use it. And so
Exactly.
I help people, I turn them into me in a little bit in terms of, looking at things through content goggles and
Yeah.
recognizing those moments of content. And a big push lately also is putting themselves forward into
Right.
social media. People, even marketers, get freaked out by that. Do you know how many marketers are freaked out to market themselves? It's incredible.
Well,
But
it's funny, Christine, when I started this podcast,
Mhm,
solely to promote my clients. I
mhm,
have a good following and we were going into COVID and I thought, oh my God, what are we going to do for my clients? And
yeah,
I was desperate. I was honestly desperate. I'm like, okay, you know what we'll do? We'll put them in front of my followers and we'll put them in
there you
front of
go.
my followers in all these different places. So we started this podcast and it wasn't until weeks later that I realized my numbers were going up because by being in front of the camera, I was marketing myself, which I had not been doing enough of. So one of the ladies in my office was joking the other day. We had a person who I guess didn't realize what we do because we were talking about burgers and bands, and they said, have you thought about doing live video?" And Anastasia just laughed, and she's like, Anne wakes up and goes, "Good morning, folks," because
And
I
that's
do
something
live
you
video
didn't
all the time.
consider a thing before, but now it
Right.
is.
It is, and it's so great. So it's an opportunity. I've gone on to the next idea, which is to be more human. You
Yes.
can put yourself in front of people and be more human. So talk a little bit about why that's important, especially right now.
Absolutely. So it has always been important, but we're really catching up to the importance of it right now. So let's go back years to the beginning of social media. Social media began not for businesses. It was not a marketing tool. It was for individuals to connect with individuals, ideally individuals they knew or who were part of a same community so that they had a common ground to meet on. It started out specifically on college campuses. When I joined Facebook, I was technically not allowed on Facebook because I had graduated college years earlier, but I had to use a .edu address. Thankfully, I had an alumni address to sneak on with. And that was only in 2006. 2006. You were still not allowed on Facebook unless you had a .edu address. So things have changed very rapidly. But then marketers came in, we crashed the party, and we do what marketers often do, which was that before we knew it, these social networks, which were like small backyard parties, basically became Times Square, billboards everywhere, because marketers came in and tried to market in the traditional salesy way.
Right.
That doesn't work on social media. That's not what social media is there for. So then eventually, the platforms realized we got to crack down on this because people are getting sick of being sold to and they're leaving the platform or they're spending less time on the platform. They're like, I came here to see my friends. Instead, I'm seeing ads. I'm out. And so they shifted the algorithms to deprioritize those salesy messages that were meant for just passive consumption and to prioritize conversations. Here's the thing. That doesn't mean organic reach is dead. That doesn't mean pages and businesses cannot get traction on Facebook. And of course, all the other platforms have this going on also to differing degrees. What it means is we need to be more human. We need to get conversations going. We need to stop seeing our followers as followers. We need to stop seeing our followers as prospects. We need to start seeing them as humans who we would like to start a conversation with, because there is a place for selling. There is a place for advertising. There is a place for broadcasting. Here's my thing and how to buy it. That place is not social media. We need to focus on the social, not the media. And you can do that as just a brand. I mean, I've certainly had conversations on social media with just kind of brand accounts. It is infinitely easier to get people to talk and converse with a human, especially if your responses to them are not a canned, "That's great, Brenda. Thanks for commenting." Converse. Converse. We have forgotten the art of conversation because we're so in business mode. But when it comes to social media, business mode and human mode need to not have such a sharp line between them. We really need to let the human sink in more. Another thing is by reminding them that there are actual humans behind your brand, people have something to support. People feel better about supporting that. If you, especially in this time of, quarantine, when a lot of businesses are really struggling, especially small businesses, if you have $1 to spend, are you going to feel better spending it, at a big box store that is run by zillionaires? Or are you going to feel better helping your neighbor with their shop that's in your town?
Right.
Here's the thing. It's not just about that, because the fact is that big store can still show a human face and you automatically feel a little better because you remember, oh, but that big box store still employs my neighbor. So I'm not saying shop big box instead of little. I'm just saying that that even big businesses can start using that superpower of the small, and the small businesses certainly can use the superpower of the small. And one person consultancies can certainly use the power of the small to just put a human in there and make you realize that you're supporting a real human being when you support this business. You're getting the attention of a real human being when you support this business.
Exactly. And one of the things that gets me, and it really, every time I want to bang my head into my desk, because people will say, oh, but I'm not a B2C. That works great for B2C. And I'm like, who do you think is buying? Do you think there's a company out there like a robot and it's walking around and it's like, I'm going to buy this thing? Who is the person on the other end?
Yeah.
And you have to think about that person. We just went through this with a client who is they're a manufacturer, but what they make is something that other manufacturers buy. Mm-hmm. So they have a tool.
So it's very B2B.
It's very B2B. No consumer is going to buy this. But when we sat down and we said, tell me about the person on the other end. And they're like, no, it's a business. And I'm like, okay, I get it. But who calls? Who makes the phone call to you? Yeah. And once we did that, what we found out, it's a blue collar worker on the line on the production line who is calling to say, hey, we need this particular product. We need this particular piece for our machine. Well, once we figured that out, we could figure out where he's spending his time, what he's doing, and what he wants to know, and how it's going to matter to him. Oh my God. And it was so amazing, the difference once we targeted that particular person. This is who you're talking to. So stop talking up here and start talking right here where this person is. And it makes a huge difference.
It can also make your own product or service better, because you know what happens when you talk to the person who's making the purchase decision? You get market research. This is free market research. Social media is the most powerful market research tool that has ever existed. And
Absolutely.
It's free. There are certainly things that you can do to strengthen your use of that data. There are tools you can buy. There are services you can pay for. But when it comes down to it, you get free insights, not only in the insights section. Like, you don't even just have to look at your insights section on Twitter or on Facebook or wherever. You can just look top level, broad strokes. What are the conversations you're having? What are people saying to you? This is such an incredible opportunity, and I think we all got used to it a little too quickly. We've forgotten how special it is.
Oh, yeah. And I've had people say, I had a client say to me, oh, I don't care what people are saying. And I kind of got a point that it's like, I'm, building this, and I don't, I won't be put down by people. But at the same time, I'm like, you need to know what your people are saying. And him in particular, because I was like, so did you know that your receptionist really sucks? Because every bad review you have is about that receptionist. Yeah. And he's like, no. And so when I showed it to him, I'm like, this is what you're seeing on this is what I'm seeing on social media about you. And he retrained her and everything worked. But like, you do need to know. And you do have free information there. Use it. Use that.
And that's another thing to point out, actually. In that particular case, it was good to know the bad thing that was being said so that they could fix it. But at the same time, it's another thing about putting more humans into your company is you're less likely to get kind of that vitriol, because the fact is, if you're a faceless corporation and someone has a bad experience, they'll just attack. And people are so much more likely to post about a bad experience than a good one. However, if there's a human face as part of that, they might think for half a second. I mean, people are still jerks on the internet. It just is the way it is. But if you put a face there, if you put a human there, in fact, if you know something about that human's life, if you know that that person running that company just went to the beach with their kids, I mean, it feels a little bit different to attack them. I gotta say.
Absolutely. So actually, I'm going to give everybody an example. If you guys are from, so if any of my listeners, anybody who's watching this is from Severna Park, that you'll know the story. But there is a donut shack. It's in Severna Park, been there for 30 or 40 years, and people love it. People loved it. And they sold last year, and I think they sold to their nephew. And when they did, the nephew was not on social media, and he made some changes, and people started talking really, really badly about it. And it was the talk of the town. It was, we have a thing.
And people already don't like change. Like, even if he had made awesome changes, people don't like change the things
they don't like change. And they just went off on him. And it was really bad, to the point that they had to close their doors. So they, after all these years, so somebody else said, wait, I'll buy it. It is an institution. I will buy it. I will change it. And even as they were signing the documents, they started posting and saying, hey, we're going to take over. This is who we are. This is why we're doing it. We used to, my wife used to work here when she was a teenager, and we've always loved it. We don't want to let it go. It is booming. The first weekend they reopened, they had lines down the street. It was amazing. So that personality, it makes a difference.
It's really funny that you mentioned a donut shop, because the mug I happen to have with me today is for our local beloved donut shop, Boxer Donut. So it started as Gypsy Donut a bunch of years ago, and people loved it, and it was great. And but the owner decided to sell for a variety of reasons. But the great part is he sold to his longtime manager. So everybody knew and loved the person who was buying it. Everybody knew his face already. Everybody knew his name already. So that, first of all, had a lot of built-in goodwill where people wanted it to succeed. People wanted it to succeed not only because they still wanted to get their excellent coffee and excellent donuts they were used to, but people also wanted to buy in because they were like, oh, this barista who we've been seeing every day for years, he's the boss now. Good for him. And he's like a young guy, so people were really psyched to see Eric succeed. And they were able to trust him with the business because they knew that he knew what was special about Gypsy Donut. And they changed the name. They changed the name to Boxer Donut for a variety of reasons. One of them being that gypsy is actually not a very nice word in some communities, but they changed it to Boxer Donut, but they kept a lot of the feel the same. They kept a lot of the product. The products had an evolution, not a revolution. So the fact is, you didn't go in when they first opened and order your favorite donut and it tastes totally different. They've made it clear when they're making tweaks to recipes. They have enough love that they can get people's feedback on things and take it into account. They're trying new things, but they're trying new things and really getting active customer input, and they're communicating it. They're not just like, okay, we came in, we bought this, we're changing things. But they also didn't say, we're coming in, we're buying it, and we're keeping it exactly the same. They knew that they had a community, and the community's been a part of this. I was literally at a meeting in Gypsy Donut where the previous owner invited some regulars, and we all know each other personally. So he invited some regulars, and they were brainstorming on a new name. This was before we knew he was selling. They're brainstorming on a new name. I was part of the conversation about calling him Boxer.
Yeah.
Because the previous logo had been a dog. The dog had been a boxer that was named Gypsy.
There you go.
So now it's actually a human boxer. It's an old timey mustachioed boxer holding coffee and a donut. But I mean, the human element of that is huge. The fact that people wanted Eric to succeed was an enormous part of that. And they know how to use social media really, really well.
Yeah, and that it makes a difference. I mean, you've got to be more human. And if you take nothing, I said in the beginning, I said, I want you to take something away from this. I want you to put it to work. So go out today, and if all you've been doing is putting up ads on your social media, do something human. Try that. All right. I want to go on to right now. We can make permanent changes and not just a stopgap. And this is something I have preached throughout. So I love that you wanted to talk about it. I didn't even prompt you on it. I love that you did it. So tell us your thoughts on this.
So one huge thing to that is that back in March of this year, a lot of the businesses that had been putting off prioritizing social media, putting off having any sort of online element to their business, even something as simple as, can you buy a gift certificate online? If you don't have the bandwidth to set up an online store or whatever, can you at least put something online? So many businesses had that on the back burner. The ones who either A, already had it, or B, took action quickly in March are the ones who are still around today for the most part.
Right.
And there are a lot of businesses near me, beloved businesses, that have closed. And we've all been kind of collectively mourning them because these are a part of our community. They're part of our lives. And the number one thing people keep saying is, but they could have done this. They could have done that. Like, they could have, had an online store. They could have set up online gift certificates. They could have set up this, that, and the other thing. They
could have told us they were in trouble, right? That's something people didn't do.
They had so much goodwill built up that they didn't realize they could translate into online action.
Right.
And so this March really marked a line there. And June, I feel like July was the second wave of that, where I think a lot of businesses that had been waiting it out and not taking action, partially because they were going through a period of trauma. Right. You can't really blame them for not taking huge action when you're going through this massive, unexpected trauma. But at that point, June, July, a lot of businesses that had been kind of waiting and seeing, there was a big split. Some of them were just like, you know what, this isn't going to happen. We're out. And some of them said, you know what, we got to get this online now. Boom, new website, new social media, new, things going on.
Yeah.
And so here's the other thing. Here's what I'm saying about permanent change, not a stopgap. Those places can't or shouldn't take down their online stores or their online shopping after this, when things open up fully again, when people feel safe again, when we don't even need to wear masks and do hand sanitizer and distance in stores and restaurants again, whenever in the future that may be. They need to keep that part of their business because that's the part that kind of keeps them safe. But then the other part is the putting the humanness into the business. A lot of these businesses hadn't let people in on the human side before, and they were humming along just fine, posting, here's our thing, here's our thing, here's our thing. And they were fine. They had social media, they had websites. But now they're realizing that they needed to put themselves in it more, that they felt compelled to show up and say, hey, we just wanted to thank our community for helping seeing us through. Here's the people you're supporting. We're so happy that we're still part of your community, and we're going to do all we can to stay here. In addition to that, and I won't get too far into this is not a political show, but the fact is we've also had the huge national and international reckoning on race relations right now. And a lot of people, in particular, a few months ago, a lot of businesses and individuals put up their own statements, or even just a black square, which was itself a statement. And a lot of businesses that hadn't previously touched anything that was not directly related to their business felt compelled to touch something that was part of a broader conversation, that they said, you know what, this is part of my values. And because it's part of my values, it needs to become part of the values of my business. It's also part of the values of the people who are following my business. And I would like to also connect to that broader conversation. If this matters to my customers, this matters to my community, and this matters to me, why the hell shouldn't it matter to my business? And so people also have dipped a toe into that area of how can I participate in a broader conversation that doesn't directly relate to my business. This is also, I'm not saying every business needs to go become an activist. I'm saying that people are dipping their toes into, I'm going to show something that I, as a human, am thinking about right now. And I'm going to also post that as my business because I know it's something that the people following me are connecting with right now too. And I want to show that I'm there with them.
Right. Well, and Christine, we can use this as an example. So the Black Lives Matter, yes, absolutely. That was something that people started going out for way before that. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when we started Burgers and Bans for Suicide Prevention in our small town, the number of businesses who stepped up and said, yeah, we've watched the suicide problem in this town for a very long time. And now we're going to step up and we're going to make that a priority. And they did. And we watched these companies look at what we're doing at Burgers and Bans and share that information and put things in front of their, we have signs that say you are not alone. They would put them in front of their stores, not because they're trying to attract more business, but because they're like, this is something my community cares about and it's something we care about. And you can do that. Again, it goes back to the being more human. It really does.
And you can use your voice. That's another thing. People are recognizing their business is not just a business, it's a platform.
Exactly. It's part of the community. And I do want to go back to what you said about some permanent changes earlier. And you said people added gift cards, or they added an online store. They added different things. And one of the things that I said right from the beginning, and I truly believe, is what we did is we slowed down enough to add a new stream of income. Yeah. That's what we did. And yes, it may have been the only stream of income in March and April and May. But now, as things are opening back and as your business is picking up, suddenly you have the business you already had and this new stream of income. So it is a really big deal that we were able to do that. It was almost, okay, take the time. Let's take a breath and let's do this. So I mean, we did it. We started you had talked about it earlier. We started a campus where you can go and learn. You can take classes and learn how to do social media. I'd wanted to do it for the longest time, but now it's a campus and you can just go there, asmmcampus.com, and take a class. And we have other people who come in and teach the classes. So it's really cool that you can do these things. So yeah. So what do you think? What do people need from us right now?
What people need from us right now is first of all, we need to hold space for them a little bit. I've always said that since I work one-on-one as a consultant with people, it is part therapist. It always has been, because you have to figure out, you have to work through the blockages as to why they haven't done this before. What has been stopping them from doing this before? So that's always been a part of it. Now there needs to be even more of that, because you need to really have a lot of sympathy and empathy for the fact that this is hard. They're going through something unprecedented. They're not in a position where they're able to make decisions from a place of strength to the degree that they normally would. It's even if they're doing well, there is some fear in any decision regarding business right now, just because of the way things are. I mean, if you're not afraid, it's a little... So we need to kind of meet them there, recognize that is a thing, instead of trying to, positivity the crap out of them and say, no, you have to think bigger, blah, blah, blah. You need to be like, I understand. This is a big deal. You don't want to lose this thing you've built. I can help you. I understand what you don't want to lose. I value it. And I'm going to help you make it stronger so that you can be less and less afraid of losing it. So I think that's part of it. We need to get more to that softer human side of our work with people. But then the other thing is simplifying it. If we make it seem too complicated, again, people are a little freaked out here. They're afraid of losing things. If we insist on a big bang blitz going on and go too fast for them, I feel like that's also not good. So I feel like they really need us to simplify things. They really need to be able to trust us more than ever before. The trust is no longer simply based on data. The trust doesn't just come from, here's numbers of the people I've helped and I helped them grow X%. The trust comes from, I understand you. I understand what it is here that you want to protect and strengthen. Absolutely. I feel like that's what people need the most from us right now. And they need us to simplify the whole getting online thing.
So, Christine, if you go back to the whole, we do suicide prevention,
Mhm.
and my company is really two companies. We have our
Yeah.
end that is social media. We have Burgers and Bands for Suicide Prevention, and they run out of the same office. Every employee works on both. It's
Mhm.
important. The reason I mention this is that in suicide prevention, we say you are not alone. That's the message.
Yeah.
Business owners are often alone. They feel alone. So when they have somebody like you, they have somebody like me who can support them, it makes a really big difference.
It does, and it
So,
empowers them.
exactly. All right, one quick thing before we go. I want to find out what's your favorite book right now. Can you tell us that?
Absolutely. So I will admit that I'm that person with a huge bookshelf of marketing books that I keep intending to get to, but I have small children and a business, and I like hanging out with my husband. So I don't get a ton of time to read. But what I'm reading right now is already entering my pantheon of books that I'm going to return to. There's a few books that I return to over and over again. I mentioned some of them quickly earlier. My friends Andrew and Pete, Content Mavericks, I return to and do the exercises. Julie Catino's Brand Twist, or it's called Twist, I return to over and over. Melanie Diesel, the Content Fuel Framework, I return to over and over. This is a new one that I'm going to return to over and over. This is The Ultimate Guide to Social Media Marketing. It is brand new. It was written by Eric Butow, Mike Alton, Jen Herman, Stephanie Liu, and Amanda Robinson. Now, I am friends with most of these people. They have all built their own successful brands and businesses, and they teamed up to write this book. This is a reference book. This is not you read it once. It's
This is
basically a
something to come
textbook.
back to. Yeah.
Sorry, it's
And I've
basically
heard
a
nothing but good things
textbook.
about this. This is on my list.
I'm trying to so I will admit I'm live tweeting my reading of it, and I've only gotten one reading session down because of my life right now. But I'm really trying, especially since I want to write a good review, but I need it to be based on having actually read it. But I can tell you right now, it's very interesting. So the table of contents is like a bajillion chapters, but they're all super short. The reason why the table of contents is so big is because it's essentially an index. They want you to be able to look and say, here's what I have a question on, and go straight to that page. And they've also done a really good job of making it up to date and also evergreen. They make clear the parts they're talking about that have to do with the way a given platform is right now, and they say it straight out, but they also make clear the parts that are going to be and remain general fundamentals of social media marketing, general fundamentals of those platforms, because even though the platforms are ever shifting and there are new features and there are algorithm tweaks, the fact is the major platforms at this point kind of know what they are. The things that succeed on them now will continue to succeed on them. You just may have to make slight tweaks in the future, but they've done an incredible job at really clarifying as much as humanly possible. And it's something that a beginner could read and really get up to speed. But it's also for those of us who are steeped in it every day,
Right.
going back and reviewing the fundamentals is so important. If you just skate along on the latest technology and like pat yourself on the back, that's not how to continue learning and growing. You need to go back to the fundamentals sometimes and say, oh yeah, I've sort of gotten off track with doing this. Okay,
Yes.
let me review on this. So this is a book I'm definitely going to be going back to over and over through the years. And I'm sure they're going to update it in the future. And they're all very online. So I'm sure that there's going to be an updated ebook, I'm sure too. But it's just a great book.
That's great. Thank you so much. And Christine, how do people find you? Tell me real quick.
I am the only Christine Gritmon there is, which is kind of awesome. It's Gritmon, so grit like when something's gritty and mon like Monday. I am C Gritmon on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Christine Gritmon Inc. on Facebook. I'm Christine Gritmon on LinkedIn. And the best times to catch me are on Tuesdays at noon Eastern time. I host a Twitter chat called Chat About Brand. It's about personal branding. Oh, hey, So is my Friday, noon Eastern time, Facebook Live show. The Facebook Live show has a guest expert who I interview about an element of personal branding. The Tuesday Twitter chat is on the same topic as I'm going to be talking to my Friday guest about. And both of them have amazing giveaways. This week's giveaway, we gave one away yesterday during the Twitter chat. We're giving one away on Friday during our live stream with Rebecca Radice, is from Brand 24, which is a great way to monitor people who are talking about your brand. So yeah, definitely check me out, especially Tuesdays on Twitter and Fridays on Facebook.
That is great. Hey, I know you have to run, so I'm going to let you run. Then I'll talk about the rest of the show, what we got going. But I really appreciate you coming on. This was great.
I appreciate being on.
It's been 3 years since we saw each other in person, so it was really nice to see you in, sort of person again.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we will again. But thank you so much for coming on.
I hope we can share an actual live cup of coffee in 2021.
Oh, that would be so great. All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Oops. I put you on. There you go. All right, guys, let me go to what we have coming up next. On Monday, we have Natasha and Rick Whedon, and I'm super excited about them. Natasha and Rick, they run a networking event here I'm in Chevy Chase. They're in this area in Montgomery County. They run a networking event called C4 Networking, and it's really amazing. But they also run a business, and this business is a health and wealth business. And the reason I'm having them on is that they work together a lot, and they're a married couple. And I thought, let's talk about that, because so many of my friends and so many of the entrepreneurs I know run their business with their spouse. How do you do that? My husband and I do not do it together. My husband is an attorney. He works with a big company, and I do this. And sometimes that's lonely. Sometimes he doesn't get what I have going on. Oftentimes it's wonderful because he doesn't get what's going on and I can just move on to something else. But I'm really interested in this dynamic. What is it like to work with your spouse? And what are your tips for doing it in a healthy, wealthy way? So I'm looking forward to that. I want to remind you to please subscribe. You can subscribe on YouTube, which would make me happy. We're getting our numbers up there. We're trying to get to 1,000 viewers there, 1,000 subscribers. We have more than 1,000 viewers, 1,000 subscribers, because my kids think I'm a nerd, first of all. And secondly, I can't monetize the account until we get 1,000 subscribers. So help me out there, folks. That would really make a mommy happy. So one more thing. We are ASMM Digital Marketing. We are ASMMdigital.com. If you have a small business and you don't have time to take care of it yourself, you don't have time to do the social media yourself, that's what our team does. And we do it in a different way. Yes, we post for you every single day, but we get to know you and your values, and we become you online. So if somebody makes a comment, we're going to comment back in the tone of voice you would use. And we are going to ask you, in the beginning, we have a lot of learning to do. We may ask you questions and say, is this something you do? Is it something you don't do? Is it something you encourage? What is it? And we eventually become so much like you online that oftentimes our companies will call us and say, I didn't remember typing that. And then I remembered that, oh, you typed it. It just sounds just like me. So that's what we do. If you need help, ASMMdigital.com. I look forward to seeing you guys Monday. Like I said, we have 2 great guests on Monday, and then we'll have another one on Wednesday. I'll tell you about that on Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We're over 1,500 downloads on the podcast of this, and we're on episode 76. So that's pretty cool. Thank you guys so much for supporting us and commenting and liking us, everything. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.